I'm Susan McElrath. I'm the University Archivist here at American University, and it's my pleasure to tell you about the Peace Corps Community Archives, which started about a year ago. And the goal is to document the experience of individual Peace Corps volunteers. So unlike the National Archives, which documents the actual Peace Corps, the organization, we're actually looking at the experiences of individual volunteers. So we're looking at looking for correspondence, letters, diaries, pictures, oral histories, all kinds of things. There's a small display in the back to give you a sense of some of the materials that we've already received, to give you a taste of what we're looking for. But the goal is to talk about the 2 to 3 years that those of you who are in the Peace Corps were in service in country. So your letters home telling mom and dad what it was like, whether it was good or bad. And sort of so that you can actually get a real sense and taste of what it was really like to be a Peace Corps volunteer. Because ultimately what we want to be able to do is build a collection that is comprehensive both by time and by geography, so that if someone was curious to look at how the Peace Corps experience differed, how education differed from one country to the next over time, you could actually do this sort of comparison by looking at what the experiences were of individual volunteers. We do have a website. There's a sort of postcard in the back with the URL. You come take a look, give you a sort of a sense of what we're doing. We have it's basically a blog with pictures and things talking about collections we've already received. And my card is there too for those of you who have questions about what it is we really want and what the procedures are for donating. So the Kennedy Library right now has narrowed its focus. It's only interested in people who served between 61 and 63. So we take everybody else. So the Kennedy Library, when it first started its project, was accepting all, and they've since had to narrow their scope. So we're basically filling in the gap.
Would you take oral histories?
So we will take copies of oral histories. The oral history program that was started is still based at the Kennedy Library. So those are still going to the Kennedy Library.
They're after 63.
Yes, the oral history program is comprehensive. The actual papers portion is not.
And is this part of the National Archives, or is it American University?
It's American University.
And they fund
Yes.
So the stuff that the Kennedy Library received for after 63, where did it go?
It's staying there. They're just not accepting anything new. So they made it, when they started the project, they had no parameters on what they were accepting. And then someone at some point made a decision that they were going to focus on the Kennedy years. And I asked the question, what does 61 to 63 mean? And the answer is it depends. So you could potentially have someone who started in 63 who would be accepted by the Kennedy Library, or someone who started in 62 who went from 62 to 64. But they want to do this on a case-by-case basis. So if you started in 64, it's a little bit dicier, but they are still collecting those very first groups, but nothing more recent than that.
So if somebody was interested in 1970, they'd have to come here for some of the stuff and go there for other stuff that was received prior to their policy change.
Correct.
And will you be linked in any way?
So that is yes and no. I mean, in the sense that we are sharing information and linking our various websites, but the collections itself, unless they've been digitized and put online, can't really be shared in that sense. And that sort of depends. Though the National Archives would love to digitize those holdings, that's not their top priority at this point. So there's no way to know what and how they're going to decide. And in our case, we have to get permission from the individual donors to digitize materials and put them online. And once we have that, then we'll be building a digital collection or a digital component for the collection. But this is an inherent problem for split collections in all archival repositories. You can link the information about them, but you can't physically link the individual collections. The one thing that we have is, because we're in Washington, D.C., for those researchers who are doing the research in the records of the Peace Corps itself, our location is pretty convenient for them to want to look in both places.
Susan, when you comment on the collection that American has, how it started with the French Columbia,
Okay. Part of the reason why American University was selected as the home for this archives is we basically have the records of the National Peace Corps Association, so we are the official repository of the member group, sort of the big group that you guys are, your umbrella group. And the Friends of Columbia basically was the first group that approached us, and part of the reason for that is our university librarian, Pat Wand, was on the board of the Friends of Columbia and knew that they were looking for a home. And the interesting thing about that collection is it's a combination of an archive of the Friends of Columbia, but also they've been encouraging their individual members to donate. So we've been receiving, since the early 2000s, contributions from individual members of the Friends of Columbia, and that includes some of the ones from the very first group that actually served overseas.
Are you have an archive of the NPCA records
Yes.
from the beginning?
Yes.
So if we have material we want to add to that, get it to you?
Yes.
You'll take it?
Yes. If it's a duplicate, we won't keep it. But if we don't have it, yes. But it's almost impossible. That collection is over 100 boxes at this point. So there's no way that I could tell you today whether what you have is actually a duplicate of what we already have. But if we take it, we can review it and analyze it. And then, assuming you're okay with us recycling it if we don't want it, or if you want us to return it to you, we can do that as well.